Computer. Sam, good morning. How are you?
I am well, Pino. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We connected through a mutual contact of ours. See, networking works,
It does, for sure.
right? So we connected a couple weeks ago, and and then we jumped on a Zoom call last week, and I said, you know what, I want to pick your brain on some more. You've got a wealth of information when it comes to recruitment, so I just want to pick your brain on today's call. So, Sam, tell us a little bit about who you are and your experience in the recruitment industry.
Sure. Initial background, come from a very engineering family, kind of got into technology and spent most of my life, my younger life in technology. My education, my degrees are both from the US in tech. When I moved to Canada in 2006, I kind of wanted to come out of hands-on technology. So I was given an opportunity in a very large multinational recruiting firm to do recruitment, but specifically within the tech space, which was ideal because I was able to kind of bring my knowledge and my experience in something that I love doing, but also kind of get out of that hands-on technology from a day-to-day perspective.
Right.
From there, I also got an opportunity to transition to another organization. The contact that you referred to before kind of hired me in both positions.
Yeah.
So I've had 16, 17 years working with him specifically.
Yeah.
So my second company in recruitment, again, I joined specifically as a tech recruiter.
Yeah.
But during the last, 10 years or thereabouts, I've kind of grown into a position where I led the teams, I built the teams, I developed the teams. And my last few years, that's all I did. I really was responsible for guiding and developing and enhancing the recruitment team for both contract and perm, specifically in the technology space. But a
Yeah.
lot of knowledge and understanding with other spaces because the organization does do other things as well.
Okay.
Couple that with, I did have quite a bit of involvement with the sales managers and working with their clients, sometimes vetting out what they actually required, working with clients to kind of downscale what their expectations from their job description is, and then also kind of provide some market intel as to what they could actually expect from from the market from a technical perspective, but also from a rate and salary perspective. So
Sam, but
that's
your
that's my
recruitment experience has been mainly on the agency side.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, all agency.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've done internal recruitment for my team specifically,
Yeah.
and built and developed my teams. But
Yeah.
the general purpose of our companies were really agency recruitment experience.
Awesome. Do you like managing people?
I love it. I
Yeah.
actually started when I was much younger. My dad had a company, and I got involved in managing people from that point, and it was something that I really liked.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of doing it on and off, but
Yeah.
really for the last 10, 12 years, I guess,
Nice.
really focused on it, and especially for the last few years, it's been a big part of my career.
Nice. Okay, good. Okay, let's jump into it. The labor market right now, from my perspective or through my lens, inflation and high interest rates have caused a lot of employers to maybe put the brakes on hiring right now. So there is hiring going on right now, maybe not at the pace it was maybe a few years ago. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. 2021, 22, I think kind of spoiled people
Yeah.
because, there was so much jobs that was available in the market. We had a major labor shortage.
Yeah.
The government was looking at bringing more immigrants in to kind of cap those labor shortages. And we still do have labor shortages in certain spaces, healthcare being a big part of that.
Yeah.
But it has definitely changed over the last, especially the beginning of 2023. We have really
Yeah.
kind of seen that trend going where with the discussion of recessions, with the interest
Yeah.
rates significantly increasing, companies now starting to put the brakes on hiring because they're like, oh my God, what's happening? We want to
Yeah.
kind of make sure that we are gearing ourselves really, really well
Yeah.
for the continued business. And
Yeah.
they didn't want to let go people. Obviously, it has happened. In tech,
Yeah.
that's happened quite a bit, right? We have had
Yeah.
big companies letting go significant amount of people.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but so that also kind of damages the labor market as it stands right now. Yeah.
So I agree with you, and I think what's keeping companies still hiring right now is hybrid versus remote. So what I'm seeing is employers now are saying, okay, the pandemic's long behind us. It's
Right.
I think we're 2 years past it. we got to get back, we got to get our workforce back into the office. But candidates are saying, no, wait a second, I don't want to go back into the office. You're telling me I have to come to
Right.
the office 4 days a week. So now it's a push versus pull scenario, right? So I think organizations right now maybe not have to, they don't need, they're not going to hire. A lot of them are like just holding off for now, but at the same time too, those immediate roles need to get filled. They can't find candidates because again, hybrid versus remote has really thrown a monkey wrench into their recruitment plans, right? Into their hiring plans. So
Absolutely.
right,
And it's a big challenge that companies has
yeah,
because if they're looking to pull, like if it's a contractor or someone who is actually actively looking for a position because they were downsized or for whatever reason,
yeah,
then there's a little bit more tolerance. I would assume.
yeah,
Obviously, the biggest discussion is they want to get back a remote role, but
yeah,
somebody who's actively in a seat has been doing remote during the pandemic era.
yeah,
They don't want to leave that job to go into a position where they have to go on site, especially
yeah,
4 days a week.
yeah,
Once a month, they're fine with it.
yeah,
And then the other problem is that because of the pandemic and remote work, a lot of people have moved out of the city.
yeah,
So now they have become or they now live in areas that are a lot
yeah,
more affordable, but a
yeah.
lot less accessible.
Very good point. Yeah,
So that's been a big challenge for people, right? Like
yeah,
now I live in Barrie. Like how am I
yeah,
getting to downtown? Now it's. I
yeah,
used to live in North York and it was easy. Now I
yeah,
live 2 hours away. How am I getting to downtown? It's not as
yeah,
convenient anymore, right? So
yeah.
so the hybrid does change the conversation for a lot of people,
Yeah.
and it's a challenge for sure.
Do you think hybrid's here to stay? Do you think we'll ever go back to a 5 day work week?
So you know what? It's a big challenge. A lot of companies has real estate.
Yeah,
That's the problem,
yeah,
and they pay for it,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
if you look at a real estate organization
yeah,
in the GTA,
yeah,
they all they're about is renting or leasing or selling real estate. Do you think that it's a good idea for their entire staff to work remotely? They'll be like, but that's going against what we want to sell. We
yeah,
want to sell. We want to lease real estates, right?
yeah, yeah,
And that's only for one industry. But
yeah,
every other company, law firms or whatever you look at, they have big offices that they have to pay for,
yeah. And it's
and so
expensive.
it's very expensive,
It's
right?
expensive.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
especially if you're in downtown. Sorry, especially
yeah,
if you're
no,
in
if you're
downtown
right,
core, right?
if you're downtown, that space is very costly, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a very interesting debate. I think it's gonna. I'm of the opinion it is here to stay. I
yeah.
don't know if we're gonna go back to a 5 day work week. Maybe down the road. Right now, I think a 3 day.
Here's
Uh,
here's the
you know,
challenge. Here's the challenge when they go back to 5 day work week.
it is.
They limit the talent pool,
Yes, I agree. So I'm working on
right?
a call with
So
a client right now in Vaughan, and it's 100% on site. And everyone that I'm
right,
speaking with is like, no, if it's not hybrid, I don't want the job.
right,
But you're not working right now. But I would rather
yeah,
stay home and wait for that job that I can work 3 days from home or 2 days from home, right? So
yeah.
it's a big debate. And I don't know what the answer is. I see pros and cons with each scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
So
companies want to fill back their space. They also have, the integration and camaraderie when teams are working together. There's a little bit
yeah,
more openness, a little bit more, especially from a manager perspective.
yep,
I manage my teams remotely,
yep,
and because I had people sitting in India, in Calgary, in
yep,
Windsor, they were scattered throughout. So it's a
yep,
little bit difficult, obviously, to have everybody in the office. But
yeah.
as a manager, sometimes to train people,
It's
having them in
hard.
the office sometimes is a little bit easier because when you're doing training on one person, everybody gets that same training, right? It's
That's
just
right.
easy.
Yeah, that's right. But I think the number one benefit to being in the office is you gain trust from your coworkers and senior leaders, right? So when they
Yeah,
see you and you sit down and have a meeting with them face to face and you have lunch with them and you exchange and dialogue and conversation, there's nothing that can beat that, right? It's hard to, even though like Zoom is very prevalent and Teams, I get that, but there's nothing that beats the face to face, right? It's the number
right.
one way, from my opinion, to build trust and gain
Yeah, yeah,
credibility, right?
yeah. No, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
um Sam, why do you feel so many people are struggling with their job search? I mean, I get calls constantly. There's so many people out of work right now, and they're really struggling. What's your thoughts and opinions on that?
I think it's multi-layered. The first problem is the interest rates. Companies are looking and seeing, their cost of borrowing is significantly higher.
Yeah.
The looming recession that's been looming for so long.
Yeah.
All of these kind of things, I think, has caused companies to kind of put a really, really big pause on the type of hiring that they were doing 2021,
Yeah.
22.
Yeah.
I'll tell you from an agency perspective, one of the things that has happened or we have seen a big increase on is HR trying to manage the positions on their own, just so that they could save the cost from an agency fee, right?
Okay.
Um, and that blends other issues, which I think we'll chat about soon.
Yeah.
So the cost of borrowing is there. Companies are looking at the scare in the market right now from a recession, from a
Yeah.
borrowing perspective.
Yeah.
There are many, many, many people that got laid off for many, many different reasons over
Yeah.
this period of time.
Yeah.
So now the talent pool in the market is significantly more than it was. So we're
Yeah.
no longer in that labor shortage. Now we're in a labor overburdened labor
Surplus.
market.
So we're in a labor
Yeah, so
surplus.
correct. Yeah, right. So
Yeah.
which is a problem, right? So yeah.
What I'm seeing now is there's so many candidates right now that are out of work, they've been impacted by downsizing, restructuring, and they're just applying to jobs that they're not qualified for, that maybe they don't even want, but there's so
Right.
much pressure from them because bills are coming up. A lot of people have to renew mortgages this year. So there's all these external and internal pressures on them, and they're like fighting for these limited jobs. So I can't begin to tell you how many calls, Sam, that I get from people, from candidates that, hey, I noticed that you're looking for an HR role. Yes, I am, but you're not qualified for the job. Yes, but I'm a quick learner. I'm available to start right
Right.
away. That doesn't help my case, right? So many people right now are just struggling to find a new home, and
Yeah.
I could imagine how frustrating it is for people right now.
Yeah, I know it's frustrating, and it's a really good point, Pino. You know what? Like, candidates now have to know that they're competing. They're competing with
Yeah,
every other candidate in the market for that position.
yeah,
So it is a really, really good idea that you are as close to a match for that position as
yeah,
you could potentially be, because
yeah,
there are more candidates on the market
yeah,
hunting for that position as well,
yes,
and they will have better qualified candidates.
yeah,
And now that whether it be HR or whether it be an agency
yeah,
trying to identify the right fit for the organization, the one thing that an agency recruiter or HR representative from an organization is not going to do is to say, well, they may be able to pick up the position,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
What they want is a little bit more surety. They want
yeah,
really good bang for their buck, their hiring
yeah,
buck.
yeah.
So they are going to look for those close match people.
They want to find that the candidate is close to the match as possible. And the number one reason for that is they just don't have the time to train. Most
Yeah,
clients that we work with they want to find someone, they are going to train, but they want
yeah,
to have someone hit the ground running, right?
yeah,
So industry experience. So this client that I'm working with in Vaughan, it's automotive manufacturing. They're targeting that same industry.
right.
It'll probably more likely to succeed for coming from a similar industry. So in other words, they want to find a candidate that's going to hit the ground running and that can jump in quickly and get the job done, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
so my next question to you, Sam, is, so if people are struggling now, what advice, if there's a candidate right now that is watching this video right now and they are struggling with their job search, what suggestions can you make to someone that is struggling with their job search? What advice would you give them?
So I'm sure every candidate has kind of been told this at some point in time.
Yeah,
Your job search has now become your job. So treat it like that and be
yeah,
very efficient and very good at it.
yeah,
Meaning document it.
yeah,
Every position that you want to apply for, what I would recommend is read the position 2, 3, 4 times. Your initial read is like, yeah, I could do the job, but sometimes you need to take a step back, reread that position and say, okay, I can see where I'm going to be a challenge to get a
yeah,
position like this.
yeah,
When you find those positions that are really good, you need to do a lot of research. Research the company, research
yeah,
the industry,
yeah,
research the job, try to understand, look at people that are in that position from that
yeah,
organization, where
yeah,
did they come from. When you build a really good portfolio for yourself to make an application,
yeah.
ensure that your cover letter and your resume is indicative of your experience for that.
Okay.
I like people to create Excel sheets. I like people to put a link to the job, put when
Yeah,
they applied to the position, everything is there. When they get a call from a recruiter, and they have applied for 20 positions, you can't remember all of them. You
Yes.
should be able to bring up that job and be able to speak to it to some level
Yeah.
comfortably. So
Okay.
you need to be able to kind of really garner the information that you need to,
Yeah.
and ensure that every job that you apply for is
Yeah.
a good fit. Yes, you may not hit every single thing, but you need to be
Yeah.
able to read that job description well and
Yeah.
understand what is the major critical components of that position
Yeah.
and how well you fit with them. Don't
Yeah.
apply for positions that are not a fit.
Yeah.
It doesn't
No,
really
and I
works.
think a lot of people right now are doing that. They're just spraying their resume out. They're applying to
Yeah,
jobs that they're not qualified for, and that they don't even want, because again,
yeah,
there's these pressures on them to get a job and to get back to work, right? So
correct. Yeah,
um my opinion on that, and I talk about this often, is another thing that I'd like to share with anyone who watches the video. Just be active on LinkedIn. Another way to stand out. Just keep in mind, these organizations are getting 200, 300, sometimes 400 resumes per job posting, and I'm
correct,
convinced the hiring managers can't. They're not equipped to go through that volume of resumes. They just can't. I mean, there's just not enough time in the day. So you have to think outside the box. You have to think creative, and if that means being active on LinkedIn, go to networking events, get yourself out there, be visible to potential employers, right? Because you're one of 400 applicants, right? So it's
correct.
like winning that lottery ticket. It's a really slim chance. So you have to think outside the box and do something different to get noticed. In addition to that, working with an agency recruiter, right? We both, you and I have worked with in the agency world for quite some time. Working with a good agency recruiter can get you in front of the get you right in front of that line and skip that long line and get you right to the hiring manager, right? So work with a reputable staffing firm, right?
Yeah, you know, a lot of agencies has developed really bad names
Yeah.
over the years.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Agreed.
one, having a really good agency and understanding the team that you're working with is really, really important for candidates.
Yep.
Um, the other side of it is, I'll tell you, as an agency recruiter,
Yep.
um, a lot of times when we get a job description from a client, it's a
Yep.
laundry list of 95 million different things that makes no
Yeah.
sense for the job.
Yep.
And agency recruiters, I think, are very good at asking the right questions for
Yep.
the client to the client and say, okay, so tell me, what is your must-haves? What
Yep.
really you need to build out of this person? And
Yep.
if you're able to get the right agency recruiter to represent you in these type of positions, I think they're able to really guide you as to what's going to stand out
Yep.
in your application versus the other. The other
Yep.
great thing about agency recruiter, they're not going to send 10, 15, 20 resumes to a client.
We never do.
Typically, because typically they spend so much time evaluating people and finding the best fit for the company,
Yep.
and understanding what the candidate's expectations are as well, to
Yeah.
make sure that marriage really happens really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That are agency recruiter, when you are picked by an agency recruiter, typically you have a higher potential, at least for an interview. At that point in
Yes.
time, you
Yeah.
need to win, right? As a candidate, you need to win, right?
Yeah,
But
so that's the
yeah,
other part of it. So now you've got the interview. Now you've got to win the interview. Now you've got
yeah,
to get them to say, yes, we like you. We want to make you an offer. So it's your job
correct.
to really prepare for the interview, win the interview, and get that offer. And that's another conversation for another day. But I've seen
Yeah,
so many people, Sam, over the years. They were great on paper. They checked off all the boxes, but when they got in front of the hiring manager, nerves kicked in, they oversold themselves, and they weren't able to effectively communicate their skills, and they didn't get the job. And I've seen it
yeah,
time and time again, right? So for
yeah,
me, being prepared is probably the number one advice that I can share with anyone who's watching this video right now. If you got the interview, make sure you go into that interview, make sure you're prepared, and you're doing a mock interview the day before. You mentioned on our call last week, driving to the client site, so you have an understanding of where to go so you're not late that day. It's all these subtle
yeah.
things that you can do. So when you do get the interview, you are prepared, and you win the interview, right?
Exactly.
Right?
The preparation is
Is
is is really key
it's
to being
but
successful.
but Sam, being prepared in anything, when you're prepared in life, in anything that you do, when you buy a home, you work towards your education, when you're prepared, when you write down a list of things that you want to achieve, you're more likely to hit your target, right? So
Yeah.
being prepared in life, aside from your jobs, just in general in life, is you're gonna be more successful if you're prepared, right?
And absolutely, and Pino, I think we were chatting about it as well. Preparation also gives you confidence. If
Yes.
you know what you know and you're confident with it, your nerves are a little bit less when you ask questions about it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always tell my candidates, when you're going in for an interview, I hate the word interview. I prefer meeting.
Yep.
Why? Because I don't want to scare you. Just listen, you're going to
Yeah.
evaluate this company and these
Yeah.
people as
Yeah.
much as they're going to evaluate you. What if you
Right.
go in and you do not like the team? As good
Yeah.
as the job may be, if you don't like the people that you'll be working with or
Yeah.
for,
Yeah.
you may be like, this is not going to work out for me, right?
Yeah.
So going with the
Yeah.
mindset is, this is a meeting. I'm evaluating as much as they're evaluating. So wipe the
Yep.
nerves off, be prepared, be comfortable, dress nicely, dress comfortably,
Yep.
prepare yourself. And so when you go in there, you're confident.
Okay.
Confidence removes nerves.
Okay. So Sam, that leads me to my next question. Naturally, most people get nervous during an interview. We're talking about nerves. So how do they ease the nerves down? What methods can someone do to make sure that they assure that they're going to that interview in a calm state of mind? What advice would you give anyone?
So a few things. First of all, you should have done a research on the company.
Okay.
Make sure you have a list of questions that you're going to ask the company, right?
Okay.
And either be about the position, about successes. Let them
Okay.
know that you're interested in this position. Right? If
Yeah.
you don't ask any questions, it doesn't come across that you were interested. So make sure you have a list of questions.
Yeah.
Prepare. Have your spouse or friend or
Yeah.
parent or someone of your connections
Yeah.
sit down with you and ask you questions. Find questions on the internet that
Yeah.
may be asked. If you come across a question, or if you're asked a question, sorry, that you don't have an answer, don't try to blumber your way through it. It's
Yeah.
most hiring managers could see straight through it.
Yeah.
Answer the question. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if I talk to a candidate and they if they say, "Hey, I don't know the answer to that. I've never done it." I'd appreciate if someone said that to me as opposed
Yeah,
to, tell a fib or tell a lie, right? Just, "Hey,
correct.
I've never done that.
Yeah,
I
but
don't have
here's the
experience with that."
correct. But here's the experience that I bring that will help me adapt to that technology or that experience or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
be able to draw references.
Yes.
Like you said, go ahead.
No, no, no. So people say to me, I don't have the experience, but I'm a quick learner. I'm no one. Sam, I can't begin to tell you how many people say that to me.
Yeah,
I'm a quick learner. We don't want to hear that as recruiters. I don't want to hear that you're a quick learner. Why? Because 30 people
everybody
already
else
told
says
me
it.
that this morning that I'm a quick learner. We don't want to hear that. We want to know, can you do the job? And can you provide examples of you doing it? Not that you're a quick learner. When
Correct.
I hear quick learner, it means you haven't done it. End of story.
Yep. And it's same thing with people person. I'm a people's person. No one
Yep.
is going to come in there and say, "Well, I hate people," right? That it doesn't happen, right? So,
Yes, that's another
so
point.
you need to be able to
Yep.
not say I'm a people person, but show and give examples how you are, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
I think, and again, experience and your ability to do the job does do
Yeah.
that. So, but we were also talking about driving to the location.
Yeah.
So knowing the traffic, if I'm going for an interview at 9 o'clock
Yep.
in the morning, that's a lot
Yep.
different than me going to an interview at midday.
Yep.
Understanding the challenges that I will have driving to location,
Yep.
making sure that I have my clothes ready,
Yep.
making sure I really understand my resume. I can answer anything on my resume. If
Yep.
there are things on your resume that you don't have experience with, it
Yep.
should be on your resume. Take
Yep.
it off.
Sam,
And
what's your opinion on a lot of women and men wear perfume and cologne in an interview? Should you do that? Is that good or bad?
I would say stay away from it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Especially very strong scents.
Yeah.
Some people are very scent conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I used to be a smoker when I was much younger. If
Yeah.
I walk into an elevator and someone just smoked, it drives me insane. I can't stay in the
Yeah.
elevator. I have
Me
to come
too.
off of it, come out,
Yeah. Me
right?
too. Yeah.
So just simple scents that
Yeah.
people take for granted, right? Some
Yeah.
colognes and perfumes are very very strong.
Yeah.
If you are going to wear something, try to wear something that's very 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 muted and very very mild. Preference
Yeah.
is to not wear anything like that because it
Yeah.
could irritate people, not from a anger perspective, but irritate them from a sense perspective, right? So yeah,
Sam, so two things I want to talk to you about. Just before we move on, nerves. One advice that I want to share with the audience for anyone watching this right now. One thing that I did is because I prior to me getting into the recruitment industry, I used to interview with companies and so I used to get really nervous. But one thing that I did to kind of ease the nerves down was driving there. I would listen to my favorite song, or I
yeah,
would listen to comedy to put me in a better afraid state of mind. Right. So that
yeah,
reduces the feel good drug in your body and it made me feel good and it brought down the nerves. Another thing that I recommend for people is get an exercise in before your interview, right? We know
yeah,
exercise it makes you feel good as well too, or read a book. if you're sitting in the parking lot, read for 10 minutes. That eases nerves as well too, right? So
Yeah.
that's my tip on that.
Something
Go ahead.
something else I do, is when I get to an interview, I get to a location and I'm feeling a little hyper.
Yeah,
I do a little meditation,
there
just
you
a little
go.
calm,
Yeah,
little breathing in and out,
there you
calm down
go.
myself,
Good tip.
and just make sure that I am thinking only positive thoughts. Don't think anything negative.
Yeah,
Always think positive thoughts every step of that
always
interview.
positive. Sam, your thoughts on, so we talked about getting to the interview, you're dressed to impress. You want to dress well, right?
Yeah.
Let's say, hypothetically, I mean, I've interviewed thousands of candidates over the years, and I've met candidates that didn't dress as well, but they were really smart. Like, so this saying dress to impress, is that still relevant today? Is that still important? Your thoughts on that? Should you wear a suit to an interview? Like, does that
So
matter?
here's my view on it. If I go to a really high-end event and I'm the only person in shorts and a t-shirt,
Yep.
I don't feel good.
Yeah.
I feel like, oh my God, what did I do? Why am I not dressed?
Yeah.
You don't want to go into an interview and every person in that team that is interviewing you
Yeah.
are in a business suit or some sort of dressed attire, and you
Yeah.
go in there in a t-shirt and a jeans,
Yes.
because you feel less. That it's just human nature. You feel that's the
Yeah.
first thing you
You don't
notice when
you
you
don't
go in.
fit in. Like you feel, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's much better. I much prefer go in and be the most dressed or the
Yeah.
best dressed person in the room
Yeah.
than the worst dressed person in the room.
Good point.
So I would always err on that, unless
Yeah.
sometimes some interviewing panels or the HR will tell you, dress code is business casual, right? So
Yeah.
if they advise you on that,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's okay to even ask,
Yeah.
is there a
Like,
specific dress?
yeah, I was gonna
So
say
yeah,
that. Ask the hiring manager, did you
yeah,
what's your dress code like? Do you recommend me
yeah,
in a suit, business casual? Oh no, business casual is fine. It's Friday, we're
yeah,
we're business casual. Okay, that's
correct.
fine. Then you don't have to maybe put a suit on. Or especially if
Yeah,
it's like a weather like this, if it's 40 degrees, it's really warm. I don't expect you to
yeah.
come wear a suit, but I think it would depend on the industry. If you're interviewing for a law firm downtown, you want to look sharp. You're in the city, you're in
You
the
better
downtown
be.
core, you want to look.
Yep.
If you're in a manufacturing environment,
Mm,
so I guess I would say my answer to that is ask the hiring manager what the dress code is like, and it would depend on the industry. I think that's how I
yeah,
would
yeah,
answer that
absolutely.
question,
I would agree
right?
with that as well. Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So, Sam, would you agree that you have to have a likability factor about yourself? In other words, you have the right experience, you got a great kick-ass suit, you have the experience, you've worked for my competitor, but I just don't see you fitting here. I don't see that. I don't think you would fit in well with us. Like, or you don't have that likability factor. What's your thoughts on that? Does that play a factor in the job search?
Absolutely. There
Okay.
is never a time a hiring manager wants to bring in someone or hire someone that they consider a disruptor.
Yep.
Meaning they don't want to come in and this person just doesn't fit with the team. They have no connection with the team. They can't connect with the team. They can't connect with the company. They can't
Yep.
connect with the manager.
Yes.
So likability is a asset. And here's the problem with it. How would you know? You would try to be as nice as you could be, as
Yeah.
pleasing as you could be. You have
Yep.
a not an angry look on your face, but a
Yep.
pleasant look on your face. Your
Yep.
demeanor tries to portray that pleasantness as much as you can.
Yep.
But there's absolutely no way for us to know what that company culture is, right?
Yes.
Everybody says, well, good company culture, but what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
But you just need to know that you need to go in there with a good energy, go
Yep.
in there with positivity, try to be
Yep.
that nice, warm, open person that you could have a comfortable discussion like we're having right now.
Yeah. Just a light
Um,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah, just a
Yeah.
conversation that could go into something that's a little bit further,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
while while always maintaining a professionalism right through, and that will help you through. But like likability is a big thing. I wouldn't
Yeah.
hire someone that I don't like on my team.
Yeah.
So
No, I,
yeah,
I, I totally agree with you. It does play a big factor whether you're going to get the job or not. Again, you could be great on paper,
yeah,
but if you don't fit in, if you don't mesh with that hiring manager, unfortunately they're gonna go to the next candidate. Another thing I want to
correct.
talk about today is if you are looking for work, let the recruiter know or the hiring manager that you are working on. Be clear on your total compensation package. That's really important as well too. You don't want to get to the final stage and then uh, Sam, thanks for coming in. We've had 4 meetings. We're going to make you the offer. It's 80,000. No, 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 Pino, I should have mentioned that I'm looking for 90.
Right.
Didn't we cover
Yeah.
that at the beginning? I could have sworn we did, but in my notes it says 80. No, no, I'm looking for 90. And then the whole thing falls apart. So I do want to
Correct.
share this with the audience. If you are working with a recruiter or hiring man, just be clear on your total compensation package. Let them understand what you are looking for. Vacation, your base salary, what that looks like, and let them know any vacation plans coming up for the year. All these little things do play a factor in the job search,
No, absolutely. I mean,
right?
especially when you're dealing with an agency, a lot of candidates from my experience, they
Yeah.
will kind of hesitate telling an agency, well, I'm making this amount, or this is, my total comp looks like this, because they don't want to discount themselves being too high or too low. And they
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
try to say, I'm
Yeah.
going to bet the odds here.
Yeah.
An agency recruiter is there to help you
Yeah.
get the most that you can,
Yeah.
right? And that's
Yeah.
a truth. But the most
Yeah.
that you can that falls within what the client will accommodate, right?
Yeah.
Because I could take a candidate at 150 grand and try to fit them into $100,000 role. It's not going to
Yeah.
work, right?
Yeah.
So just be clear, be upfront,
Be
and I think,
transparent.
yeah, and I think it will go a lot smoother
Yeah.
if everybody's on the same page from day one, for sure.
When I'm qualifying candidates, I ask the candidate, so what are you currently earning right now? I'm at 115. Okay, well, the role that I'm working on right now is at 90,000. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's fine. That's fine for me. So you're
Yeah,
gonna take a pay decrease, you're gonna take a 15, $20,000 pay increase. Oh yeah, Pino, that's not a problem. Well, you've worked so hard to get to 115. You're gonna go
yeah,
back in terms of pay. So I always question the candidates, okay, what are you currently earning right now? What would you like to ideally make? Well, most people want to go up in pay. Now, pay is not
correct.
a driver for most people. We know that. But when someone says to me, I would take a $20,000 pay cut, that's the candidate has some explaining to. Now, I have seen cases where the candidate did take a pay cut because money was not a driver for them. They weren't happy. They really want to get out of the situation where they are. So there are cases where people do take a pay cut. But from my experience, most people want to climb up that salary band, right?
Yeah, yeah, and
So
and and I completely agree, and I think the
yeah,
biggest pay cuts that I've seen, or accepting pay cuts,
yeah,
was people moving into a complete remote role.
yeah,
Then they're willing to sacrifice $10,000 a year because they're like,
yes,
I don't need to drive, I don't need to have a
yeah,
second car, I don't need to have all of these kind of things. It's a lot
yeah,
more accommodating for me
yeah,
to work at home and have a little bit more freedom in my day. And
yeah.
just commute. You save sometimes 2 to 4 hours in commutes every day, right? So
It's getting
depending on
worse
where
and
you live
worse,
and where,
Sam. It's the,
yeah,
the
yeah,
traffic
yeah.
in Toronto is getting worse.
It is horrible.
It's
It is
it's
horrible
getting
for
worse and
sure.
worse, right? So
Yeah.
Sam, listen, I'm gonna wrap up. I just want to say thank you for your time. Thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for allowing me to have this conversation with you. If anyone's watching this right now and they do want to connect with you, what are the methods to do that? How do they connect with you?
Best way, just connect with me on LinkedIn,
Yeah,
Sam Rampersad.
yeah,
I'm pretty visible on LinkedIn,
yeah.
so you should be able to find me very very quickly. So anytime, just reach out.
Perfect.
Let me know where you saw me, and that way I
Yeah.
will be able to accept, and we could always have a conversation. I have no problem having conversations with people to guide them along. So
Well, we're recruiters. That's what we do. We talk to people.
yes, exactly.
There,
Yeah,
there you
I'm
go.
not afraid of it for sure.
There you go. Sam, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Pino. It was a pleasure.
We'll be in touch. Take care.
Sure. Take care.